Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It's a Monday, the 15th of June, 2026. And for those of you who've been watching the mainstream media, what are you doing that for? Yeah, you won't be trusted. I've been screaming about the lack of integrity of the mainstream media for 3 decades. And at least they're living up to their reputation. Welcome to the Monday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm Dave vonKleist with the facts, WTF. And if those facts make you exclaim, WT, what the? Anyway, so be it. And that's where we're at, folks. Yeah, the facts are stranger than fiction sometimes. Well, more often than just sometimes. It's more common than most people want to admit. You know, they say science fiction turns into science fact. Well, I'll be getting to that in a little bit. There are a couple of things that I'm going to touch upon today, and I'm going to make some people upset, and I'm not going to apologize. No, I'm not. I'm just not going to apologize for it. The number one issue that's been on the front of my to-do list, if you will, for many years has been the issue about, shall we say, the Epstein files stuff. And I've known about that stuff for decades. I've told you regular listeners know that years ago I was good friends with Ted Gunderson, and he and I shared a lot of information back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right up until about 2009. And he passed, I think it was 2011, somewhere around in there. But anyway, I'm going to give you a simple, a not-so-fun fact. All right? Now, I hope you're sitting down for this. But the numbers don't lie. And the numbers indicate that every minute in this country, a child is either abused, raped, beaten. I can't even say the words. It's just so upsetting. And cannibalized. It's either or, any of the above. Every minute, a child is going through some sort of abuse. Like I said, rape, torture, cannibalism. Every minute, folks. And if you add the numbers in for the rest of the world, it's every 10 seconds. I looked up the numbers here. As a matter of fact, let me see here. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay. I asked a question. How many children go missing every year in the world? Well, in the United States, I did the math, and by the way, if you go by every minute, it comes up to about 560,000. But the point is that there's 800,000 that go missing in the United States. So that works out to be every 50 seconds. Every 50 seconds, some child is going through that type of torture. And if you add in the rest of the world, like I said, it's every 10 seconds. This is unacceptable. Now, I can't help but look, I'm so happy for the New York Knicks. I'm so happy for, the North Carolina Thunders. They won the Stanley Cup last night. I'm so happy for those people. But I saw the videos over the weekend of the millions of people who were dancing in the streets in New York and Brooklyn and the Bronx and all over the place, even up in Connecticut. There's a lot of Knicks fans all over. How many millions of people were out, doing this stuff? And, of course, there were a lot of arrests, and they were burning buses and vandalizing, and some people were hurt. Okay, but the point is that you got millions of people out there jumping up and down and acting stupid because of a basketball game. A basketball game. Yeah, I'm happy for you. But why aren't the people out there screaming and demanding justice for these children that I just mentioned? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? They got out there for the George Floyd issue, and that kicked off Black Lives Matter, and we all know what happened in the summer of love. Yeah, mostly peaceful protests. going on all over the country, Seattle and Portland and Michigan, wherever. People got out there and they were, burning stuff and just acting stupid because of George Floyd. And oh, by the way, now it's all come out. Of course, we were all conspiracy theorists when we were referring to the autopsy report that showed that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose and that his larynx was undamaged. So that means Derek Chauvin is innocent. Yeah, it might be a bit brutal when you put a knee on somebody's neck, but this is standard operating procedure with a lot of police forces when you're dealing with a belligerent, uncooperative perpetrator. And it's insane. And what happened to the organizers of Black Lives Matter? All those millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they raked in from the unsuspecting public? They bought themselves mansions in gated communities. You all been had. So people get out there and they demonstrate and they protest and they celebrate their basketball team, but we can't get people out in the street to stop the child sex trafficking and the murder and the torture and the satanic cults that are cannibalizing. I mean, this is all in the Epstein files. This is not conspiracy theory. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago when people started talking about Pizzagate, oh, it's all conspiracy theory. I'm so sick and tired of people calling, researchers and reality reporters as conspiracy theorists. I'm sick of it. So all you guys that are out there celebrating, the Knicks victory, and yeah, I'm sure it was exciting. It was marvelous that your favorite basketball team got to win in such a spectacular fashion to whip you up into a frenzy where you stand in front of a camera and go, because of a basketball game. What's wrong with us? What happened to America? I'm sorry, but I mean, these are very difficult facts that we have to deal with. When you've got one child every 10 seconds falling into that horrific fate, and we just, oh gosh, no, I don't want to talk about that. That's too horrible. No, I don't want to talk about that. I think about all of the trucks rolling through this country that are loaded up with children, or all the railroad containers were loaded up with children. You don't want to talk about that. No. Go ahead. Keep on singing God bless. I'm proud to be an American where I get to think I'm free. I'm sorry I'm on a soapbox today. But I mean, I just can't help but think, like I said, I saw the videos of all the people celebrating, and I'm happy for them. But it breaks my heart that we can't get people out in the streets demanding our elected officials face justice. And we know that there's most of them. It's not a few. It's most of them. We all know what the Epstein stuff was all about. It was all about a honeypot operation. Get our elected officials and corporate leaders and media moguls and Hollywood stars and rock stars into compromising positions, get them videotaped so that they can be blackmailed and controlled. That's what it's all about. Well, I'm sorry. Every single one of them needs to go. Every single one. And I'm also sorry, but, you want to vote them out? Good luck with that. You want to have your protest and demonstration? Well, go ahead. Have your protest. Have your demonstration. The only result is that the cleanup crew gets double time. That's what you get. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be such a pessimist here, but I've been watching this crap for years. And I got to tell you, I didn't sign up for this. I've been a musician all my life. When I was in high school, I grew up, as a child, I was exposed to music and the arts because my mom was an aspiring musician, an aspiring singer. And she had a lot of friends who were in the arts and the performing arts and the fine arts. As a matter of fact, I babysat for Norman Mailer. Anybody want to look him up? I babysat for his kids. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, there were a few times that Mary Travers, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Yeah, Mary Travers was my babysitter when I was a young kid. So I was in that circle. I was always involved in the arts and music and stuff like that. And and also as a vocalist. And I got into radio back in the 70s. I got my broadcaster's license, which I guess you don't need now anymore. But I got my broadcaster's license in 1979 at the University of Hartford. And so I've been involved in doing music and vocals and announcing all my life. And it was back in the 90s when I decided I had to start screaming from the rooftops, blowing the trumpet, as it says in Ezekiel. That's, as a matter of fact, it was Ezekiel chapter 33 that inspired me to become a talk show host. And for those of you who don't recall what that particular chapter is, it talks about how God tells the people to assign a watcher on the wall, and when the sword comes against the people, the watcher is to blow the trumpet. So if he blows the trumpet and the people don't listen, their blood is on their own head. But if he sees the sword and blows not the trumpet, then their blood is on his head. And that's what inspired me to become a talk show host. I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy, and I don't lie. And when I saw what was going on, I had to start sharing it. I had to start blowing the trumpet, screaming from the rooftops, sounding the alarm. And of course, 30 years ago, when you try to tell people that the Federal Reserve isn't federal, they looked at you like you were crazy. But now it's all coming out little by little, dribs and drabs. All those crazy conspiracy theorists were right all along, and we're still right. Anyway, I don't mean to be on my soapbox, but it breaks my heart, the simple fact that America's priorities are so screwed up. And the level of apathy and complacency is basically, it's a death sentence for this country. Unless we get people off their butts and get involved, this country's going down. And I think I mentioned last week that, with this issue about Section 224 of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which basically merges the Israeli military with our military. They don't necessarily take it over. But then again, if you factor in the honeypot videos, maybe they are going to be able to take it over because a lot of people have been blackmailed to sit down and shut up. So Section 224 merges the U.S. and the Israeli military. I tried to share that on with some of the vets at the VFW here in town. Oh, Dave, they would never do that. No, they'd never do that. So I printed it out. I handed it to him. I said, take this downstairs to your meeting with the members of this local chapter. And he did. And then we started finding out about Section 622 in Senate Bill 4615, which I also had to do some research and find out. So I printed that out, and that merges the U.S. intelligence with the Israeli intelligence. So between Section 224 and 622, and I'm sure that there's some other ones that we haven't even heard about yet, we're basically turning over the United States to Israel. No wonder Bibi said, we're not going to need your $3.8 billion anymore in foreign aid. No, we're going to turn it down. Of course you'll turn it down because you won't need it anymore. We're losing our country right before our very eyes. What's the difference between before your eyes and your very eyes? Don't know. It's sort of like the same thing. Is that your own or is it your very own? I digress. But anyway, I don't mean to be off on a soap opera today, but I don't know what it's going to take to get people off their big fat butts and get involved. Our priorities are all out of whack in this country. We should be out in the streets in every state capital, every city hall, screaming about the trafficking. Screaming about these children. It has to stop. Don't tell me that, this is, God bless America. This is God's chosen. Oh, gosh, don't even get me started with this God-chosen people. I quoted from the Declaration of Independence, and I'll do so again. God and created man with certain unalienable rights or unalienable rights. And where is it here? Oh, gosh. I hate to keep quoting, but, Oh, it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. We've heard those words before. So what's this issue about God's chosen people? Are those people more equal than us? Is this George Orwell's Animal Farm? How come that isn't considered hate speech? Canada just passed C9, which means preaching from the Bible can be seen as hate speech. Oh, that's okay. But nobody can talk about the Talmud. Yeah, if you quote the Talmud, I was on X and I shared a post that had a bunch of quotes from the Talmud, and one of the comments was, "You're a liar." It's right there. You can look this stuff up. Anyway, I digress. I'm off on a tangent today. I'm very frustrated with this whole situation that we're in. Folks like myself and many others that have been doing the research and screaming about this, we're just dismissed. Crazy, wacko, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory, Elvis chasing UFO tinfoil hat guys. Oh, and speaking of the UFOs, yeah, they just released another third tranche of UFO files, which is just another handful of crumbs. And by the way, I got a couple of news stories here. The Jerusalem Post, and this goes back, let me see, what year was this? 2020, December 10th in 2020. Headline from the Jerusalem Post: former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist. Humanity is not ready. This galactic federation has supposedly been in contact with Israel and the United States for years, but are keeping themselves a secret to prevent hysteria until humanity is ready. And that's the Jerusalem Post from 6 years ago. NBC News reported a similar article. And let me see, when was this? This was on December 8th of 2020, a couple days before the Jerusalem Post. So at least they're consistent. Headline from NBC News: former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. Again, the Galactic Federation has been waiting for humans to, quote, reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. And that was according to Haim Eshed. So, yeah, we know this has been going on. And in my own personal life, for those of you who are regular listeners, I don't mean to repeat myself. For the new listeners, I got to share this with you. My dad was Air Force. He was a pilot. He was not just a pilot. He was the top gun. He was a trainer pilot, test pilot, fighter pilot. He trained pilots. When I was a young child, he was stationed at Randolph Air Force Base just outside of San Antonio. Back in the early 60s, I would spend my summers down with my dad and the school year with my mom in New York City. So I was shuttling back and forth between New York and Texas. And then Dad got transferred up to Elmendorf Air Force Base up in, 65. And so I was up at Anchorage, Alaska. I was there for 8th grade. 9th grade, I was back in Greenwich Village, New York. And then 10th grade, I was back in Alaska again. 11th and 12th grade, I was in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Anyway, so I bounced around as a kid, but my dad was Air Force, and I remember one time when I was up at Elmendorf in Anchorage, I was riding home on my bike. And again, Dad, as a pilot, I was an Air Force brat. I knew all these planes. Dad was flying T-33s, T-38s, F-102s, I forget what it was. But I knew all the planes. I could identify them by the lighting configuration in the night sky. I knew what a transport plane looked like. I knew what a jet looked like. But anyway, I'm riding my bike down this hill, and the mountains are in the distance, and they're not all that far away, maybe 10 miles. And I saw this thing just drop out of the sky and stopped. I said, what is that? And then it went to the left and stopped. And then it went to the right and stopped. And then it went back to its original stopping point, and then, and it was gone. What? I pedaled like a madman. I got home and I burst in the door. Dad, I just saw this thing. It dropped down in the sky. And he said, oh, slow down, Dave, slow down. Dad, I saw this thing and it dropped down and it went over here and then it went over there. And he grabbed me by the shirt and he pulled me in his face. He says, you didn't see that. I did, Dad, I swear to God, I'm not lying. I promise you I'm not lying. Dave, you didn't see it. Dad, it didn't happen. Dad, I said, listen to me. You didn't see it. It didn't happen, and I don't ever want to hear you talk about this again. But, Dad, if I ever hear you talk about this, you will be grounded forever. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. And so I didn't talk about it. That was back in 67, I think it was. It had to be 67 because Operation Blue Book was still ongoing. And that got canceled. I think it was in 68. But the bottom line here is I knew what I saw. And 20 years later, when I went to visit with my dad, I brought it up again. And I said, hey, Dad, do you remember when I came home that time and I told you I'd seen something? And he says, yeah, Dave, I remember. He said, but I couldn't have you running around the base talking about UFOs. I mean, hell, we used to see them all the time. We called them bogeys. We called them Foo Fighters. We called them Santa Claus. We had all kinds of nicknames for them. But I couldn't have you talking about that. Operation Blue Book was still going on, and besides, if we were to admit that they existed, then it would blow the whole reason why the U.S. Air Force has a charter, because we couldn't possibly defend ourselves against something like that. Now, that's my own personal experience. Now, since that time, I've seen, that was my first, quote-unquote, sighting of an anomaly, of a UFO, UAP, whatever the heck you want to call it. And since that time, I've seen 4 other very, very interesting, unexplainable things. So I know that they're out there. I've seen them. So I've always had a very keen interest in this particular subject. And I just can't believe here they came out with a third tranche of UFO files. And they're showing these fuzzy, grainy, blips on the television screen. And they're just jerking us all around. They're jerking us around. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent here today. I'm a bit frustrated. I've been having computer problems, and I do have a good friend that knows what the heck he's doing. But, you install one program, and if you click the wrong thing, you end up with all kinds of problems. And being the techno idiot that I am, I had, anyway, I had to have him come over and straighten out a couple of things. But I'm in the process right now of getting ready to upgrade this broadcast. Right now, it's just audio, and it's on the Red State Talk Radio Network. But in the near future, I don't know if we can get the bugs worked out of the system. I'm already working on my first presentation. In the near future, it's going to be a full-blown podcast with video. And I will be there with the receipts. WTF with the facts. I will show you the documents. I will play for you the audio clips. I will play for you the video clips. You'll be able to see exactly who said it and what they said. But that's going to take some time and, of course, money. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a quick break.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And as always, you can get More Tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors button, and it'll take you down to where you can click on Get More Tank, read all the specifications and details about this fuel catalyst. Not an additive, it's a catalyst. It makes your fuel burn more efficiently. And what happens is that when it's burning more efficiently, number one, first tank, you will notice that you have more power. When you hit the accelerator, your vehicle takes off. And number two, as your engine adjusts to its new efficient way of burning the fuel, you'll notice that it's burning cleaner. Yeah, that's good for the environment. And after another tank or so, you start to see the mileage increase. That's the moneymaker. Yeah, when your mileage starts to increase, and you'll enjoy anywhere between 15 and 20% better mileage, depending, of course, upon your make, model, and year of vehicle and your driving habits. But if you're getting 20% better mileage with the discount, $20 gets you 5 tablets, 1 tablet per tank. Do the math. 20% better mileage means the 5th tank is free. It doesn't make sense not to use Get More Tank. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors button, and get more tank. All right, it's 32 minutes past the hour, whatever hour you're sitting in on this Monday, and the phone lines are open. I would love to hear from you. Anybody out there want to belly up to the telephone bar? Now's the time. 215-867-8255. Again, 215-867-8255. If you've got an opinion about the UFO or UAP third tranche release that they just talking about. And by the way, News Nation is the network that's carrying the most information about this. And they interviewed, what's his name? Avi Loeb, who's been a ufologist for quite some time, many years. And they're putting out some of the information. Now, again, I don't trust any of the domestic media. Yes, I would say they could probably give you 70, 80% of reliable information. But, the rest of it, it's propaganda. They're all doing it. They're all doing it. And you can tell because you look at the commercials, and if they're asking money for Israel, then you know who's influencing the network. I mean, look, when you look at the alphabet networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, make note of their advertisers. You'll find that over 50% of the advertisers are for some pharmaceutical product. So you know where their bread is buttered. You know that you're not going to get the truth from them. I mean, after all, I covered this like 20 years ago. NBC was owned by GE. If GE has some sort of a government contract that's being negotiated, do you think that they're going to report on that at all? Of course not. Of course not. And if Big Pharma is facing some sort of an accusation or scandal or corruption, do you think they're going to report on that? No, ain't going to happen. No. So anyway, give me a call. I want to hear from you. 215-867-8255. And getting back to this issue about this not-so-fun fact about how many children go missing. And again, that's 1 child per minute in the United States, because the United States is the biggest consumer of child sex trafficking. Now, what does that say about our society? What does that say about who we are and what we have become? This isn't the America that I grew up with. Well, maybe it is. I just didn't know. But we all know now it's been going on for our entire lives. This activity has been going on for millennia. It's been going on since it predates the Old Testament. Child sacrifice, they've been sacrificing children to Baal, or Moloch. I know this is a topic that most people don't want to think about. They don't want to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. But if the simple fact that we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, guarantees its perpetuation. Sooner or later, we're going to have the courage to stare the beast in the eyes. And if you don't have the courage to defeat the monster, then how can you dare call yourself a red-blooded American, mom, dad, and apple pie? Land of the free and home of the brave. Home of the what? Home of the what? And you don't have the courage to stand up against this atrocity? Oh, you have no problem running out there and stripping yourself half naked and painting your team colors on your body and jumping up and down and acting a fool. That's not a problem at all. That's what it is to be an American. Go team, go team. Damn fools. Bread and games. Yep. And I've said that many times. You want to get a rise out of the American people? Cancel a beer delivery and a professional sports game. You'll see people out in the streets faster than you can spit. And that's a sad testimony for our priorities. Anyway, I hate to sound like a pessimist here, but I'm sick and tired of watching this stuff and trying to tell people about it. And still, they just say, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. I feel a little bit vindicated because of what happened at the local VFW here. At first I said, yeah, they're turning over our military to Israel. No, that wouldn't happen. Well, here's a document. Oh, crap. Yeah, right. But the first knee-jerk reaction people have is to deny it and defend it. Who was it? The German philosopher, how do you say his name? Goethe? G-O-E-T-H-E, Goethe? Goethe? I don't know what it is. But he said all truth passes through three phases. First is denial. Second is violent opposition. And third, widespread acceptance as common knowledge. Oh, we all knew that. I'll tell you, ego and pride is going to be the destruction of humanity. We're so filled with pride that we can't ever, ever, ever admit that we were wrong. And this is one of the problems with the extreme left, the extreme liberals. Not all of them, but the extreme ones. Oh, yeah. If you disagree with them, and if you show documentation or evidence that proves that they're wrong, they will fight. They will fight you. You know, what do they call it? Stockholm Syndrome? When presented with evidence, irrefutable documentation and evidence that proves a particular point that they didn't believe in, they will fight. This is not, you can't have an open and honest debate with people like that. They're bat crap crazy. But that's where we're at, folks. I don't know what it's going to take. You know, sometimes you got to smack the donkey between the eyes to get his attention, and maybe that's what has to happen. And I mentioned it last week. I forget who it was, but the Huffington Post was having an interview. I don't know who the interviewer was, and I'm not quite sure who it was being interviewed. I can't remember. It may have been Dave Smith, but I don't think so. But this guy being interviewed, he spelled it out. He says, look, you can have, you know, your letter writing campaigns and your emails and make your phone calls, and you can, you know, contact your congressman, your senator and stuff like that. You can have your protest, your demonstration. You can try to vote. Nothing's going to change. Nothing. The only thing that unseats a regime is violence. And unfortunately, he was right. And there's more and more people that are starting to talk that way. I mean, I can't say what he said on this particular interview, but in essence, he basically said, when you see your elected officials and judges start suffering some sort of a fate, and I'm not going to get into explaining what it is, then they will start paying attention. But even so, they will still fight you. Because all of these people who are being blackmailed, you know, those three magic words.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, bribery. In other words, lobbying. Okay, that's the other word. Lobbying is bribery. Prove me wrong. So we've got so many officials that are being bribed. They're being coerced. Hey, it'd be a shame if something happened to your family if you voted the wrong way on this bill. You know the right thing to do. Yeah, and you know what will happen if you don't. That's coercion. And don't say that that doesn't happen. As a matter of fact, I know firsthand, years ago, what was it, 25 years ago, when Joyce and I were traveling around the country trying to get help for the veterans, and we talked to one of the senators. We said, look, you know that with these vets were exposed to chemicals and biologicals and experimental vaccines and experimental pills. You know, because it's in the Senate report that you sat on. Why aren't you helping these guys? You know what his answer was? Because my daughter's 15 years old and I want to make sure she has a sweet 16th birthday party. That's the way it works, folks. That is coercion. And the third word, of course, was blackmail. And that's what the Epstein thing is all about. And don't kid yourself, Epstein isn't the only one. That's the one that's getting all the press, all the attention. You know, there are other Epstein Islands around the world. Lots of them. Lots of them. And yes, there are factories out there. And this is sick. This is what I found out from Ted Gunderson. With some of the documentation that we had and that he shared, and that documentation that Joyce and I had that we shared with him. I mean, there are factories that breed children. Can you imagine what it's like to be born in a factory, and that factory's sole purpose is to provide sexual toys for sick individuals? Yes, there are factories. They've been doing this for a long time. What do you think is down in those tunnels? Oh, there aren't tunnels, Dave. Oh, sit down and shut up. If you don't believe that there are tunnels and cities underneath this country, raise your hand and slap yourself real hard. You've got to wake up. It's been going on for a long. I had maps that were given to when Joyce and I were helping the vets. We had vets coming up and handing us plain manila envelopes with real interesting documentation. And some of these documents had not only to do with what was going on in the CIA subprojects, the MK Ultra. It had to do with, yes, breeding children. Yes, it had to do with the tunnels. Yes, it had to do with the cities that were being built at that time. And that was 30 years ago. So we know that there are indeed tunnels. We know that they've got cities underground, and we know, as a matter of fact, oh gosh, this gets really sick. Yes, they are breeding and crossbreeding humans with animals. And again, that's been going on for a long time. You ever hear of H.G. Wells? He wrote a book called The Island of Dr. Moreau. I read that many, many years ago. And about the sick experimentation that was going on with humans and cross editing, manipulating with animals. Yeah, and they say science fiction is stranger than, what was it? Somebody said, the truth isn't stranger than anything that you've ever imagined. The truth is stranger than anything you could possibly imagine. So it goes beyond your wild imagination. So anyway, where are you folks out there? 215-867-8255. Again, 215-867-8255. Give me a call. I'm not even playing clips today. Like I said, I had some issues with my computers, and I do have some older clips here, but and I don't want to get off the track here and go down a particular rabbit hole, but. Anyway, give me a call, 215-867-8255. And anyway, we're going to have to see where this is going to go with this UFO, UAP, third tranche of disclosures. I don't know if we're ever going to get all the truth out. Sooner or later, it will have to come out. But I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to play one of the songs here that I wrote 30 years ago, because I just don't have my audio clips all queued up here. Like I said, I had some computer problems, so I'm going to take a musical break and open up the phone lines. Yeah, if you want to call me, again, 215-867-8255.
And the big band swings. Recent victory from the big one rings in the front of everybody's for boom, blushing brides and eager grooms, hula hoops, roller skates, all is well in these United States. Playing with my rabbit ears and black and white TV. But now we channel surf and pay the cable company. Are things freer in America today than they were just 40 years ago? Elvis Presley swings his hips, Marilyn puckers up her lips. All is well in Camelot. Cleaver's Nelson's apple pie, rockets shoot into the sky. Missile crisis, Vietnam, Agent Orange, Peter Pan. People taking interest, pushing for a change. But take a stand today and folks say you're deranged, yeah. Are we freer in America today than we were just 40 years ago?
Rockefeller, Chicago, the UN communist world control, Morgan, Rothschild, Warburg too, got a little plan for you, a new world order, that's the plan. Every woman, child and man, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Jew, does like they are told to do.
Shoot, shoot, boo-boo-be-doo. Working hard to get my pay, quitting time another day. The big game's on and then the fight. Let's see what's on the news tonight. A big election, what's my choice? Doesn't matter, I'm just one voice. So much corruption, nothing's fair. They won't change, why should I care? I'm just hanging on, look out for number one. And on the weekend maybe I can have some fun, yeah. Are things freer in America today than they were a couple years ago?
Broadcast stations we control, induce complacency. The goal that people think that they are free. Distractions broadcast on TV. Our influence in Washington make people do what we want done. Eventually when we are through, they'll do just what we tell them to.
Corruption is enshrined, freedom falls for all mankind. Check the records, word and deed. Is there gold, control and greed? Common sense we should apply. Ask ourselves the question why. Integrity just falls away and we don't have a word to say. By and for the people it's supposed to be. But non-involvement slowly leads to tyranny, yeah. Are we freer in America today than we were 200 years ago?
Half a century ago, a Nazi bid for world control, identifying every Jew by numbers that they would tattoo. Today we have technology and we've convinced them all to be submissive to their leadership and all receive a biochip.
Are we freer in America today than we were a couple years ago? No, 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 no. Are we freer in America today than we were just 40 years ago? No, 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 no. Are we freer in America today than we were 200 years ago?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Everybody, everywhere, sit back, relax, and get ready for the
Glorious dawning of a new world order.
There's nothing that that you have to do. We have everything under control. Just watch your TV and we'll tell you what you need to know. There's not much, I promise. Pretty soon you'll have your very own biochip. Imagine, no more tax forms, no more medical records, no more bank books or paychecks, no more cares or worries. We've done it all just for you. With years of testing and research, we finally have all the answers and we know what's best for all mankind. Simply follow directions given to you by your friendly local officials. They can guide you through the transition stage, and after you've complied with the basic introduction...
Give that guy the hook and trapdoor. Goodbye. Yeah, that's the first cut on the second album, which is entitled Music to Die For. Yeah. And you can, all the music is for free. It's out there on YouTube. All you got to do is open YouTube and do a search for my name, and you'll find all the music out there. And as they say, you know, music is a great communicator. Some people respond to music. Some people respond to spoken word. Some people respond to video. Bottom line here is that any way that you can communicate to other people what's going on, whatever methodology that you use, just use it. Communicate with other people. Share what's going on. You folks out there listening to this broadcast, you've got a good handle on the situation. You wouldn't be listening to this network if you didn't. But if you're keeping it to yourself, then what's the point? You're supposed to join me. Blow the trumpet. Blow it loud, long, and clear. We've got to wake up the masses and somehow get them, like I said, sometimes you got to smack the donkey between the eyes with a 2x4 to get their attention. And if that's what's required, then so be it. But if we're going to save this country and indeed save the world, then we have to abide by some moral compass. We have to shun the shall we say, the media anesthesia that's been thrown at us for our entire lives. It's going all over the world. Anyway, okay, let's see. We got about 6.5, 7 minutes left. There are a couple of issues that are on the back burner here, and that is a lot of the people, we've been hearing about ivermectin and membendazole and fembendazole and how these medications, and then there's hydroxychloroquine. Okay, a lot of us had never heard about these medications until 5 or 6 years ago during the plandemic, because they were demonizing that. Oh, horse paste. Yeah. Yeah, it's horse paste. You can't take that. Yeah, now we find out that it's better than chemotherapy. And membendazole is fighting cancer like they've never seen before. Oh, and then there's the alpha-gal syndrome. Yeah, okay, that's another issue altogether. But no, there was a woman, let me see, what was her name here? Oh, yeah, she's a former Kaiser registered nurse. Her name is Gail McRae, and she was being interviewed, and she dropped a few bombshells about, the cancer patients that are out there, and about some of the research that's been done to not just treat, but cure cancer. And keep in mind that the big pharma does not want cures. They do not want cures. I mean, think about it. How long have you heard about the American Cancer Society? Send your money today, we'll find a cure for it. They never find a cure. They come up with plenty of treatments. And those treatments, of course, have side effects, which means you have to take more pharmaceutical products. But that's the business model. Anyway, here is former Kaiser registered nurse Gail McRae.
So I didn't used to believe all of that. I used to think that all of this was conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. When I was a nurse working for Kaiser in graduate school, I mean, I really was just a normal girl married to an awesome dude, and we had 2 kids, and I was just the most normal the American dream liver that you could think of. And then after I left my job and we started traveling and I started doing all this advocacy work, do you know how many people I met who they themselves or their partners were targeted and destroyed for curing cancer?
Excuse me?
While I was traveling around the United States, going and speaking publicly about what was happening in the hospital. I met practitioners from all over the United States who are working in alternative modalities of healing, curative medicine. I met, in that time, about 18 months, I met 6 different practitioners who either they themselves or their partners were targeted by the pharmaceutical industry. They were threatened. Some of them died. And some of them were
poisoned.
A lot of them were suspicious suicides,
Okay.
Quote unquote. Yeah.
And then a couple of them were imprisoned for fraudulent charges that didn't exist.
Like what?
One of them was in prison for tax evasion, which it was created. The guy has no idea how. They set him up somehow. They set him up to look like he was committing tax fraud, but he has no idea.
For millions or thousands of dollars?
They do this with crimes against children too. So I know another guy who had videos planted on his computer.
Child porn.
Yes. A practitioner who was curing cancer. They didn't want him to continue working because his work was changing the world. So they set him up. And this is not the first. So that I used to believe that these were all conspiracy theories. And then I sat across the table from these people and looked at them in the face as they told me what happened.
Any of those people were MDs?
Yes, absolutely.
MDs.
Most of them
medical
were
doctors.
As a matter of fact, every single one.
So they're not just some
Every
kind of
single one of those
lunatics
6.
or hippies.
No, they were curing cancer. And the pharmaceutical industry didn't want wind of that getting out to the public because they were making waves.
Yeah, they were making waves. Oh, gosh. And there was Dr. Brzezinski. When I was down in Texas, Dr. Brzezinski was curing people of cancer. And he was being sued for doing so. So that should tell you where the big pharma is. They don't want you to get better. They want guaranteed repeat customers. The best customer is a repeat customer. Yep. That's the way it goes. Anyway, okay, all right, I'm going to close the phones. Nobody wants to talk today, so, okay, I'm going to shut down that program. I know because there's somebody that calls in all the time at the last minute. But anyway, all right, I'm hoping that some of you folks out there appreciate this broadcast, and if you do, could you do some business with our advertisers? Again, we've got Get More Tank and also the Wave Watch. And by the way, yeah, that's starting to catch on. I've been screaming about the Wave Watch for over 2 years, and it's just now that some of the mainstream talking heads with podcasts are starting to talk about it. Yeah, Brian Artis, yeah, he's been talking about it. And let me see, what's the other guy's name? I've got it written down here someplace. I'll find it later. No time to find it. But yeah, so do some business with us. Pick up a Wave Watch. Anyway. All right, that's it. That's going to bring us to a close of the Monday edition of the WTF Reports. And again, if you're listening on BitChute or Rumble or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, you know what to do. Click, share, like, subscribe, and above all else, do business with our advertisers. That's how we keep the lights on and pay for this stuff. So that said, I hope you're having a wonderful day. We got some beautiful weather up here in northwest Montana. It's about time. So I'm going to get outside and get some yard work done. And hopefully you'll enjoy the nice weather as well. That said, it's going to wrap us all up. So until tomorrow, stay safe, stay free. God bless you all. And God willing, I'll see you tomorrow.